So, hello, welcome to the podcast Artisted or Graine Artist in France. Just for my French people, there will be subtitle in the video because this one is in English. So today we are with Michelle Hoogveld. I hope I pronounced it
Yeah.
well. Who is a paintress, and she's gonna speak about painting and everything today. So thank you to be here with me
Thank you
today.
so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to meet you as well.
Yes, me too. Can you first like introduce yourself, even if I did it a bit?
Sure, yes. My name is Michelle Hoogveld. I'm a Canadian artist, originally from Calgary, Alberta, now in Montreal. And so far, I'm loving the city, which is wonderful. And I would say I'm an artist who works quite a bit on canvas, and I do large scale murals on buildings as well. And my work is very abstract, very colorful, and really about connection. Yeah.
Okay, great introduction.
Yeah.
Um, do you come from an artist family, or what's your artistic background in general?
Since I was a little girl, painting and drawing and creating has been such a big part of my world. My father is quite talented at drawing, and I would say I have three sisters, and I have a twin sister who is also a painter. And my older sisters are very creative in terms of like interior design. Um, but yeah, I think it's something that for my twin sister and I, we really somehow both captured that artistic trait. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny because like twin and doing the same thing. I think
Yeah.
it's really sounds great.
Yeah.
So how and when did you start painting? Like, do you have some lessons or do you just practice by yourself?
I think a lot of it is self-taught. Definitely, I took art in junior high and high school, and then in university, I did a visual communications and design degree. The focus was very much on Photoshop, Illustrator,
Yeah.
things like that. But I was very fortunate where a friend and we went to the professors and asked if we could perhaps do more painting assignments instead. And we were so lucky that they said yes. And so that's when I stole the keys to the art studios, and I would go and paint and paint and paint till like the like early hours in the morning, like listening to music and painting. And I think that was like where this abstraction really came out of me as a painter. But also the encouragement from teachers in elementary and high school, I think helped along the way too. Yeah.
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 It's funny because I think the teacher in general, like in Canada, are
Uh-huh.
much more supportive and like from people who have special skills, something
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
Whereas in France, it's really like, no, like do the do the straight and yeah.
Okay, interesting. I mean, obviously, I don't have that experience. My teachers were quite supportive, but it's also interesting when you make the transition from, being interested in the arts to a career, because I think as a society, up until recently, there's been like more of a negative
Yeah.
connotation between like choosing to be an artist as a career
Mm.
and just doing it for fun. But I think there's been such a great shift in like a positive direction where now people can actually dream and make it a reality to
Yeah.
to be an artist. Yeah.
And I think it was like in France, it was like long, long ago, like the
Yeah.
painter or thing like that, were really like great stuff and
Yeah,
very
yeah.
like with the king, it was all the things to be a painter, and then it like
True.
came down. I don't know why, and now it's like up
And now
again.
it's coming up
Yes,
again
I
for
don't.
sure. Yeah.
Did you always like know that you want to
Um,
paint as a job, or it come
um,
slowly?
I think it came slowly for me. When I was in the studio late at night during university, I had this burning desire to be a full-time artist, and I hosted my own art show,
Or
and it was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, and I was so excited. But then at that time, so I was on a soccer scholarship in the US. And I thought I wanted to stay in Florida, but the job I had currently had I didn't love. So I was like, okay, I'll come back to Canada. And it led me on many directions. I worked for like an Italian kitchen company, design firm. I was a personal trainer. I worked as an assistant to like a design company.
Okay.
I took a job as a chef, like a vegan raw chef in Mexico. And so there was this ad out. It was for a documentary crew, and they needed someone to cook for them while they were in the editing process.
Yeah.
And so I love cooking, so I just applied. And super randomly, the girl who was hiring, I went to high school with. So there was that connection, and she's like, "Can you actually cook?" And I'm like, "I think so." And so she hired me. So then we all ended up going to Mexico for like 2 or 3 months, and I cooked for them. And then I actually went back to school in Vancouver and I did an education degree and became a high school teacher. And so it took a while before that burning desire inside of me was like, okay, I have to be doing this. And I finally made the choice. I was in a temporary contract as a teacher. And I was like, okay, I'm going to set the date of when my last day of teaching will be. And I chose February 14th as my first day to be a full-time artist. And at that time in my life, financially, I should not be quitting a stable, secure job. But it was something where I knew if I didn't do this, when would I do it? And also, when everyone told me I shouldn't do it, sometimes the more people tell you not to do something, at least this like side of me is like, no, I'm doing it. I'm gonna prove everyone wrong.
Yes.
And so yeah, that was 6 years ago. And yeah, ever since then, it's just been a really cool, very fulfilling journey. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's funny because when I do like a little bit of research
yeah,
before, and I didn't know like your 10 career before
yeah,
painting. So it's funny
totally.
because it was like
It was
very
in so many
different things,
directions.
but
Yes,
there is a lot of creativity, I think, in each. But
definitely,
it's
for
funny
sure.
to see the building of your career. And so, how did you manage to like start painting or have the first client? I don't know how it goes,
Um,
but can you explain a bit?
Yeah, at that point, I was like, when I had all these other jobs, I was still painting, still drawing. And I remember seeing street art and murals and being like, wow, how do I do that? How do I be a part of that? And in Calgary at the time, there was something called the Utility Box program, and it was where they put a roster together of artists who would paint the electric boxes within communities. And that was my first experience of painting murals.
Okay.
And then people had seen my work, and then that led to a couple other mural projects. And when I decided to give up teaching, before that, I had applied for a major public installation. It was a underpass that was 950 feet long by 15 feet high. And so it was a pretty
Big.
grand scale for leaping into this world. And a month after I retired, I was informed that I was given this opportunity and I was awarded the mural. And so because it was such on a large scale, I think that lent itself to more work coming and people seeing my work
Yeah.
and liking my style. And then it just kind of kept growing from there. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And can you describe like your style or the technique you are using in the your paintings?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's definitely abstract and a lot of hard edges, geometric. In my mural work, I would say that's very much how I would describe it. In my canvas work, I really bring in a lot more of like organic painterly movement and flow within the pieces, and I'm bringing that into my mural work as well now, which is really exciting. Actually, I was just in Brest, France, painting a piece, and I brought a lot of that painterly and kind of more like round edges into the piece, so that was very exciting. But yeah, I think I would describe my work also as very like emotional in the way that people can resonate with the colors. And just I like the feeling of it being alive, and through the way the colors kind of communicate with one another. Yeah.
So you are like I don't know how to say it, a vibrant color lover,
Yes.
like.
It's interesting though, when I first started painting and drawing, my work was very monochromatic, working often with like blues and or just black and white. And then it was more so the introduction of street art and murals where I I just became more and more drawn to the use of color. And now, I mean, that really is like the essence of my work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the use of color theory, how they interact with one another. Um, yeah, the way they can really affect an environment that is maybe, super dull and boring or more minimalistic and concrete, like raw materials, and then you put these vibrant colors immersed in the space, and it really transforms an experience. Yeah.
I think it's great because sometimes like on the especially on the building, like when I think of breast, because you said you really, I'm like, I don't know about really about the city, but I think it's a bit I don't know if it's sad, but like for breast for me it's like rain and gray and like not
Very much
some
so.
some color can be like bring a little bit of joy for the people who live there.
Especially the district they had me painting in, a lot of the people describe their area like that, like just
Okay.
very, very rainy, very boring, very I like especially with the war, everything had to be rebuilt, but
Yeah.
it was rebuilt with not as much character as you would normally think of the buildings in France.
Yeah.
And so I think bring that vibrancy to a space. I mean, the way the community members and viewers came and like shared their experience of the wall was it was really special,
Yeah.
even if there was a language barrier. Yeah.
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 We always can understand each
I-
other
In
a
some
little bit
way. Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So how is it to paint like on a building or a gigantic wall, and how is it different from regular painting in Canva, like the process, or I don't know,
Mm,
how do you manage to paint
right.
a thing like that?
Often my ideas start in the studio on canvas. So the way I come up with the compositions often will happen from a piece I created, um, like a fine art piece. And then I take it into Photoshop or Illustrator. And from there, that's when I really like kind of use my color magic and put the patterns and the pieces together, just to kind of map it out in the actual space and on the wall. Also, when I'm on the wall, I'm using a level and a ruler, and I'm often up in a boom lift or a scissor lift or a swing stage.
Yeah.
And so obviously that experience makes it different because you're working at heights. But on canvas too, I'm often, I'm gridding it out, and that's kind of like the base of how I begin is with that grid. And then from there I fill the shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so because I saw like your painting on the German hotel because it's
Yeah.
like near here.
Yes.
So how did it happen? Like, is the client who contact you, or did you propose some project sometime? Like, how did it happen?
Yeah. So Dazzle My Heart, that's the title of the piece. And Mural Festival, Adeline, she had reached out to me and she said, we would love to propose your work for a grant that we want to apply for the Le Germain Hotel. And would you like to create a design for this? And of course I said, absolutely. And she's like, okay, wonderful. Okay, there's a really tight timeline. We have 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so it was very a quick turnaround. Luckily, I had somewhat started a design in previous months that I was working on. And so I was inspired by that and then quickly basically spent full 24 hours coming up with a design that we could present. And then I think within a few weeks or a few months, we got the word back that this mural had received the grant. And then through a mural festival, we were able to work with the Le Germain Hotel and make it come to life. Yeah,
Yeah.
which that mural was the highest mural I had worked on. Actually, it still is, being 170 feet. And I
Wow.
would love to go a little higher, but it was really special because it was, I would say the composition had to be so different because of all the windows.
Mm.
And it was, how do you make something feel unique and come alive, and you utilizing the architecture to come through the design as well. And so it was like a particularly extra challenge that I was excited by. Yeah.
I think there were a lot of challenge, like the height, the window, the fact that it's an hotel, so it's like special. And how long did it take, like, to paint the all the wall?
That one was 2 weeks.
Wow.
So there was a team that they spent the week before priming and covering and masking off all the windows. And then, so there's the front and the side of the facade. And yeah, basically it was 14, 15 days, very long days. But yeah, we were up on the swing stage. And yeah, it was really fun though with Ben and Paul. They were my assistants, and we had the music going, and we were laughing and smiling and just really enjoying the process. So when you have the right team with you, it can really elevate the experience. And now every time I listen to certain songs or I look at that mural, I just think of those like special memories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And do you have a special inspiration from other painter, or some special thing with which inspire you for
Oh,
painting, or it's just like your inspiration and the building or the
for
place?
this piece, it was the inspiration was love and connection. So within it is actually an abstract heart, but with all the windows,
Yeah.
it's more obscured. But I would say famous like people who really inspire my work. Joan Mitchell, she's an abstract, I would say, color field expressionist, painter, uses lots of color, lots of texture. And Frank Stella, he is an incredible artist who then merged his work into sculpture and architectural pieces as well. And he actually passed away yesterday.
Oh,
And so it's he's such a special artist. And so it like when you can use, I guess, inspiration from artists like him and Joan Minchell and Ellsworth Kelly. And, when they pass, it's almost like, wow, okay, it's amazing how many lives and other artists they've
yeah.
touched with the work they did. And I don't know if they're looking from above and now they can finally see it. But yeah, I think it's cool the way art touches people without even, fully knowing it yourself as an artist. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, like, which painting is the craziest you make, but you said that the German was the highest. But is there any other painting that you really loved, or who was really difficult to make at the time?
Um, There was one I did in Cincinnati, and I guess like the biggest challenge on this one was there was a weight restriction on the ground, and not many people know, but these boom lifts, they weigh quite a bit, like 40,000 pounds. So for this one, we had to use something called a spider lift. And
Okay.
yeah, that was my first time using it. And basically, there's the base of the lift, and then it goes up, but there's like these legs
Oh yes, I know
that come
the step.
out. Yeah. And this machine, it got stuck. So I'm up in the air and it's not working. And there's a ledge to the
Yeah.
parking garage where I'm just far enough where it's not safe enough for me to like reach over and jump.
Yeah.
So on this particular occasion, it was a holiday and we had to call the fire trucks. and like 20 firemen show up and basically they had to come rescue me. So that was a challenge, but also super funny in a way because I knew I was safe, but it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just hilarious because I expected maybe like three, four, but because it was a holiday and I think they didn't have much more to do, they all came. So it
Maybe
was
it
pretty,
was funny stuff.
it
So
was
they all
pretty
came for it.
fun. Exactly. What's another challenge? This one in Brest, the ground happened to be not so level, and also the ground was very soft because of all the rain.
Yes.
So because of that, we had to bring these like giant rubber mats, and basically to shift the lift took like an hour every time. And I had to like haul these giant mats around, and I felt like a CrossFit trainer.
Oh yes,
Like,
the rolling.
exactly. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm hauling tires around. Yeah, the other challenge can be sometimes just the surface of the wall. You don't know how much it's going to absorb the paint, or I use quite a bit of tape with my
Yeah.
my style. And how is the tape going to react with the wall and the primer? And but there's always solutions. Somehow you figure it out, and I think that's kind of the magic of painting in the public, though, too, is it's there's always something that comes up and you have to really adapt and adjust and be quick on your toes and feet. And I think too there's also the difference too is people are watching you. You're in the public eye.
Yes.
So every move, and sometimes they might, you're middle of the process, so that they're probably questioning what's happening on this wall, what is it going to be? Or when you're in the studio, it's more intimate and more private, and you can kind of go through the process of a painting, the highs and lows of it. Because every painting, it's like you love it, and then it gets to a point you were like, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then you finally like work through it, and but it's private. It's for you as the artist to discover that. And in the public, obviously, I mean, it's more planned on a mural, so that's a good thing is you go with it mapped out, and yeah,
Yeah.
but it's more for the viewer to discover the journey.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's great because sometimes we always saw like the finished things
Hmm.
in museum or if we buy one, but we don't know how it happened, like how is the process of the painter.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
great to understand, I think, a bit more maybe.
Yeah,
So that's
I
great.
think so. I think that's one part sometimes as an artist, you might be shy or feel more private about the process or the story, but I feel like a lot of people, that's what they're really intrigued by is the message and the story of the artist. And it's sometimes it's a balance because I like to leave a bit of mystery so that people can come up with their own interpretation and more own thoughts and feelings about a piece of art. But at the same time, sometimes it's okay to like guide them a little bit.
I think it's I read something about that, I think, about the museum and if we had to like explain the painting or the art,
Yeah,
or if we have to like just know the title, I don't know. And it was really balanced. Some
I
people
think
were like,
so.
we have
Yeah.
to explain them, and the other were like, no, it's abstract, so we have to like let them understand. And I was like, everyone can do just read or not read the like the stuff and imagine or not
Yeah.
if they want. So yeah.
What's your opinion? What do you like?
Mm, I think I don't really like read
Okay.
if because I'm just like appreciate or not. And sometimes when it's specific things, I like to have like a little bit of explication because
Yeah,
sometimes I just don't understand. But I
for
think it's the
sure.
same for me as like a dancer. Sometimes I do things and I'm like, yes, it's really clearly that it's this this stuff I'm showing, and like I don't know, my family are like, yes, it was great, but I didn't understand the story, so I'm like, okay. So I
Yeah,
think,
exactly.
yes, some people need maybe a little bit of help because they maybe less like, I don't. I don't want to say creative, but maybe less imagination, or
Yeah,
they have to have a little guide. So yes,
right.
it depends, I think.
Yeah, and that's an interesting topic too, because I think we all start with this level of creativity and imagination as children.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as we grow older, I think as artists, we try and like really capture that and like keep it alive in our lives. And then other people, I think they lose it along the way. And yeah, sometimes they need people to like ignite it or yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's the thing of work, and I have to do this study to then have this job, and then have money, and then sorry, it's really like
Yeah.
calculated things, so maybe it's a little bit less creative, but I don't
Yeah.
know, like I have a lot of people in my friend or boyfriend who are like really like, and I'm like, oh, I can do that, I can do that. And they were like, but how do you manage to do this? And I'm like, I don't know, just I want to do this, so I do this, and then like
Exactly. It's more
we'll
like
see. Yeah,
intuitive, maybe more spontaneous, but you
yeah,
have the drive, the dream, the vision.
yeah.
Yeah.
But because it's
Mhm.
like okay, I don't know my brain, so but
Yeah,
it's like both can be
for
combined
sure.
and not fun. It's not like creativity and logical, I think.
Yeah, I think there can be like
Yes, together.
a intermingling or intertwining of the two for sure. Yeah.
Yes. You have to be creative.
Yeah.
We're gonna give them
Yeah.
like homework, creativity homework after
Totally.
this podcast.
Yeah.
And so how do you manage like your calendar? Because you are a lot in different country, different city, different.
Right.
How do you manage all that with like your time for yourself and
Um,
work?
I think one thing I've shared with others before is, really focus on my routines, like self-care, self-love, whether it's working out, eating healthy, meeting with friends. Those are super important, and those are, or even if it's a phone call with friends, I think those are parts that I really cherish and I'm so thankful for. And those help create like a piece of home in a way when I'm far away from home too.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so having those routines. And then in terms of my schedule, often it is super random and I'm not sure fully what's coming down the line. And again, being flexible and being able to adapt, especially with some of these projects, they rely on construction
Yes.
and the timelines are always shifting. So when I'm home, I try and keep quite a strict, I don't want to call it a strict schedule, but I work really hard to be in the studio
Yes.
and put the time in there and make sure that my studio practice is really I guess high on my priority list, just so that the experimental and fine art side of myself is still very much a part of my world. And then when I'm painting murals, they're very long days. So it's usually yeah.
Pain,
It's
pain,
paint, 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 long, long days. But I still try and get like nice walks in and moments for myself within that. And often I'll travel with like a candle and my journal
Yeah.
and things like that, just to yeah, have those moments for myself as well.
That's interesting
Hmm.
that you talk about like routine and thing like that, because I think often artists are a bit like, because it's like one day we have nothing, and the other we have like a contract or thing, so it's really difficult sometimes to like manage yourself and your life. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important that what you said, to have like a routine with didn't change, don't change. Whereas
Yeah.
it's happened in the real life or schedule or everything. So
And it takes practice, it takes time. It also takes discipline. Like I'm
yes,
not always fully on it, but I really try because it affects my energy, it affects my mood, and just also like balancing the feeling. Sometimes you're in hotels, it can be lonely, things like that. So having these things that like bring joy into your life every day,
yeah.
it's yeah. So I think that's why it's so important.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot out of this because I have like some books here, like Atomic Habits and
Oh
everything
my
talk about this,
gosh.
and I'm reading like all the stuff to be
Atomic
like,
Habits is actually
yeah,
my
it's like
favorite. It's my
top
favorite book.
choice from the
And
the
I
favorite books. Yeah, I read that and it was really
I
not
read it every year. It's
okay.
like I recommend it. I would recommend it to anyone. It's
Oh,
such
so
a
it's
great
my
book.
like last question. Really, this one to me, bro. Yes, I think it was really interesting and like simple to
Yes.
do, like not crazy stuff. Just
Mm-hmm.
if you are not motivated to do this, just say like after I do like a cool thing, I do this because I don't want to do this. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing how little things they build up.
Mm.
And that's exactly what he says. And then
Yes.
they lead to great change or great projects or self-discovery. And I think that's why I love it is because it's manageable. It's
Yes.
not like taking on the world. And then if you don't do it, you're like, oh,
No.
okay, moving on. But it's like every day, just yeah, focusing on those little steps. Yeah.
Yes. So because we are in recommendation thing, do you have any other books or show or like I don't know everything that you recommend from the listener, like your
Mm.
for motivation or any kind of stuff?
For motivation, yeah, that's definitely one. I listen to Tim Ferriss, that podcast. I find him super inspirational and
Yeah.
motivational. Also, I recommend, this is something I do every day, is I write down my dreams. Like not when I'm dreaming when I'm sleeping, but like goals and things I would love to achieve. And every day it's just something that it keeps fresh in my memory and my mind. And then I get it re-inspired every day. So that is something that is super key. And also, I write down, like, I title it to give thanks. And so I just say the little things that I'm really thankful
Yeah.
for. And those make me smile every time. So I would say that.
We do the like thanks for at the end of the day with my boyfriend.
Oh, you do? I
I
love
a
that.
little bit of time and it's
Yeah,
great because sometimes we have like the same thing. So we are like, yes, like we are both happy. And
exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's
so
special.
that's
Yeah,
great. I really like this kind of stuff, even if it's just recent. So
exactly. Yeah.
so we are going to a little bit of question which are more like art in general and
Okay.
what's definition of art. So my first one is
Okay.
yes, it's really free. You can you can talk everything you like. How is the definition of the artist life for you? Like how is
Oh,
it
how
to
would
be
I
an artist?
define what it means to be an artist? Um, hmm.
Difficult question.
It is an interesting question because every artist is different and
Yeah.
unique in their own way, yet there's characteristics that I think we still share. And I think being able to take risks, it can be a vulnerable position to share your work. So being open to I guess sharing your stories through your art and sharing as a part of yourself, even if it's indirectly not has nothing to do with you, it's still a part of you.
Yes.
Um, and I think it's tapping into something that, yes, we are doing, but maybe it's not, maybe it's something coming through us. And I don't know if it's like I don't necessarily have a god or entity that I believe in, but I do believe in a greater power. And
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder if that's coming through us as an artist as well, if we allow it. Yeah. What else does it mean to be an artist? I think it's creating like it's this genuine sense of who we are as people that can only be discovered if you actually take the time to try. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
Mhm.
It's always come to this
Yeah.
thing like take the time and try.
Exactly. Friend recently shared this quote from Marcel Duchamp, the one who did the toilet installation sculpture, and the quote was about an artist or a painter, a creative. This is the only way to show yourself as a human, as an individual. And then that was through art. And I thought that was really captivating. And so it kind of makes you think of how you can really show yourself, your identity, your purpose, your passion through what you do.
Yeah.
And for me, that's through art. Yeah.
Another question, like a bit about inspiration and everything. Is there a place that inspire you? Like it can be a city, I don't know, your home, like
Mm.
anything.
Um, I don't know that it's a specific place, but there's something about going to a new city and traveling and walking and just taking in the architecture, the way like the light and the shadows like come across buildings, the colors in certain cultures, whether it's like the textiles or the fashion. Yeah, often I'm inspired by fashion. I don't really talk about that very much, but the way the colors and the textures come together, I just like, I'm fascinated by it. And in a way, I think it comes into my work, but I'm so focused on the, I guess, like the emotive side of my work and the way like it creates emotions between colors. Yeah, I don't never really expressed that before. So,
And I saw you did like a clothes brand, or I don't
oh
know, at one
yeah.
time, like fitness things, I think.
Yeah, I recently did a collaboration with Reitmans and we did an active wear line and it was called Haiba. And so we did some leggings, we did a bra, a windbreaker, a jacket, or sorry, a windbreaker jacket, a backpack, and a sweater. That's what I was like, there's one more thing, a
Yeah.
sweater. Yeah.
So it was your step in fashion thing,
I
like.
guess so. And I would love to, go further into that process, but I like the way I dress is quite minimal. So I would love to bring in accents of my pattern work and designs into pieces, whether it's like the inside of like a luxury purse or doing like a Hermes scarf or something
Yeah.
like that. I think it would just be
I have to
so
show you like
incredible.
a jacket after because I have
Yeah,
like something it feels really neutral
yeah.
like outside, but inside it's like really bright and colorful, and we can like
Oh,
reverse,
you
so
can.
you can wear the
Cool.
the two, and it's like
I love
if you
that.
want to be incognito, or if you're doing like yes, I think it's could be great. Yes.
Yeah, and I think too, like I love furniture design as well. Like somehow creating like those hard edges and coming up with like a chair design or something like that would
Oh,
be
yeah.
such a dream project. Yeah, and figure out ways of maybe like minimizing the color and the pattern work, but still bringing it in enough where I feel like my voice is being shared. Yeah.
Ah, that could be great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you to do like my decoration podcast. Like
On the next
we
podcast.
have a wall.
Exactly.
I don't know if my proprio would be okay with it, but okay. We'll see, we'll see. Um, and I have like one question will come to my mind because you use like social media a lot, I think, like, and what is the use of your social media for you?
Um, I think as an artist, it really helped to bring my work to a more global audience. Especially a few years ago when I think the ability of the algorithm allowed it
Yeah.
to go further. And with that, it really did help in bringing, I guess, projects to me in different countries and cities. And I guess capturing the process and showcasing your work is super important because if you're just hiding in your studio, how do people get to see it outside of where you're painting or what city you're doing a mural in? And so that's been important. It's also an extension of I don't want to call it your brand, but in a way, each artist has their own distinct identity, and I think it needs to be captured and kind of put together in a way that feels unique and really authentic to you as an artist. And so I do my social media, but I hire and work with videographers and photographers who really get my vision, and it's always fun to work with them. And it's also like a special memory that I think, like we were talking about Frank Stella and his journey as an artist, and I think it will be really cool to see how my work evolves, and it's in
Yes.
capturing that that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great with the social media. I have like
Yeah.
some dancer or people who I follow since like a lot of time.
Yeah.
I'm almost the first people I follow like on Instagram or
Yeah.
things like that. And when I saw the first picture like 2015, and now I'm like, wow, like everything has changed, like the photo, the
Oh,
pose,
for
like
sure.
I don't know, flexibility of things like go crazy, crazy, crazy. And so yes, it's cool to have some things that you can relate on and just remember when you start, I
Exactly.
think. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think as an artist, having a portfolio, like I almost treat social media as
Yes.
an
Mhm.
extension of a portfolio.
Mhm.
It's so important to have. Yeah. I think if you want to grow, not just as an artist, but in your career, I think
Mm.
that's what people need to see to kind of understand who you are as an artist and I guess offer you the job because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Hmm.
so you can show like the all the process, so your like video or thing. So it's
Yeah.
really great, and you have always some angle like
Yeah.
different. So it's really nice to see like the building, or I don't know, we which from the street we cannot like see like that.
Absolutely. And drones are so amazing for that.
Yes.
Yeah. And some videographers are so talented
Yeah.
in capturing. Yeah.
You have to have a great videographer and photographer if you are an
Absolutely.
artist.
Yeah.
And a great Instagram and all the stuff. That's
Yeah.
our advice for today.
Yeah.
Um, so like two last questions.
All right.
Which people or talents would you like to see on the next podcast, or like
Oh.
every kind of artist, or yeah.
Mm. On your podcast or any podcast?
On mine, not anyone.
Okay. All right. I think it would be interesting to speak with like the curator of a museum or gallery,
Oh, yeah.
just to understand their perspective and process of what are they looking for and how how do they create a show to share a certain message or story of an artist. Yeah.
Yes, I think it would be really
Yeah.
interesting. I
Mhm.
never
Yeah.
thought about this. Oh, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Um, is there one last thing that you want to share with the audience today, or
Um, the first thing that comes to mind, I say this over and over, is to dream big and that anything is possible if you believe it and you allow yourself to go for it. And the biggest limit in life is ourselves. So I think if we choose to take those small steps,
yes?
we can do incredible and inspiring things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's some good advice to like say, and we say it every day, every day,
Exactly. Yeah.
every time.
Hmm.
So thank you a lot for all the thing you share with us today. I will link like all your Instagram things and everything on the YouTube and the podcast. Thank you for the interesting like conversation and everything you shared. It was really inspiring, I think. So.
Oh, thank you, Chloe. I had such a good time. And like I was saying earlier, you have such an amazing, you've done such an amazing job of coming up with questions, and it was a lot of fun.
I hope my English was not too bad.
You know what I like though about immersing ourselves with other languages? Again, it's another challenge.
Yes.
And even being in France, I know I'm in Montreal, but I'm so inspired to learn French now. So for me, just being immersed with more people that are speaking other languages, I think it trains our brain to think differently and again to grow. So yeah,
Yes,
here we are.
so it's my challenge of the year, like more
Exactly.
podcast in English.
So thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes.